My name is Fredric Arnold. I was a P-38 fighter pilot in World War II. There were 14 fighter pilots in my original group. In less than 6 months, 12 of us were killed. So I stand here alone now because my last survivor, buddy, Jim Hagenbach, died a few years ago. Now, I don't care what your rank is or what branch you were in, but if you were in combat, we all share a very, very significant bond. And I think that you mentioned the cost. Well, I'm here to center, or rather to talk mostly about that cost. It's a huge cost. I'm 86 years old, and some of these things you live with for the rest of your life. Now, I've spoken to hundreds of groups the past few years. NASA, everybody that I can think of throughout the United States, the astronauts and so forth. But this is the first time I'm addressing an audience on this very private subject. Yesterday I received an email from Rick Duncan asking if I would speak tonight. Well, now that I'm 86 years old, I'm forgetting an awful lot lately. The good news is I'm not flying P-38s anymore. Well, so last night I went ahead and I made some notes of the things that I would like very much to share with you. So bear with me, I come less prepared than I would like, because this is a whole new subject for me, and one that I have perhaps steered away from, and now I'm a little sorry for that. Because I think what you fellows are doing is a very extraordinary, remarkable, and a welcome thing, believe me. Well, I come from a different time. Unlike vets of Vietnam, Korea, Iraq I and II, returning World War II soldiers were received by the public as heroes, fearless warriors. 21 to 23-year-old fighter pilots were poster boys. We came complete with medals and promotions. I became a major at the age of 23. Give you an idea of what it was like in those days, because you only got promotions when there was room for you. But what all of us have in common, and what bonds us, was the terrible fact that we couldn't wash away the memories. We were living with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. In those days, when we came back, nobody knew what that was. It wasn't even a name that anybody ever used. In World War I, they called it shell shock. But in World War II, we called it combat fatigue. The present Iraqi war, may be the first time a veteran has the opportunity to be treated for PTSD without it being categorized as weakness or cowardice. I'm sure most of you who've been in combat know that almost anything can trigger a memory. I could be driving down a highway and a faint odor from a hot engine, smelling like cordite from my guns, and suddenly I'm back in the cockpit. A reoccurring memory was flying formation with Brooks while he fired machine guns and cannon shells at a Messerschmitt, watching it burst into flames. The German pilot stands up in his cockpit to bail out, attempting to avoid the flames. The concentration of firepower from Brooks's guns and cannon cut the German's body in half. I watched it fly back over Brooks's cockpit. Back in the United States, only a week after my last combat mission, I'd only been back in this country a week, when a mission occurred when I knew I had a serious problem. I was assigned to the 4th Fighter Command, preparing to take another squadron across the Pacific. And prior to that, I was making a lot of drawings. I was an artist before I went into the service. I was a newspaper artist. And in combat, I made a series of paintings and sketches of what was going on over there. Lockheed Aircraft, which was the manufacturer of the P-38, they were down in Burbank, California. They asked me to fly down there and talk to them about them using these sketches and drawings. So I asked the commanding officer there of the 4th Fighter Command if we had an airplane that I could use. He says, of course we do. We have a P-38 that nobody knows how to fly. He says, why don't you take that? He says, it needs some time on it. I said, I'd be glad to. So I went out and picked up the P-38. Remember now, it hasn't been more than a week, 10 days, since I flew my last combat mission. I took off and I thought, my, this is just wonderful. Here I am. Nothing was a target. There was trains down below that I didn't care about. Everything was just great. I was just cruising along, having a wonderful time on my way down to Burbank, California. But fighter pilots have a knack. We are capable, like an owl, to be able to turn your head 360 degrees. It's an optical illusion because you come to the center and then you come back, you see what I mean? But anyway, I'm looking around, always looking around, back and forth. And as I look back, all of a sudden I see an airplane diving on me. I immediately swept all of the switches, all guns were on. Target was on, guns are loaded. And I hauled that airplane back over upside down on my back and headed right straight for him. And as you do this, you're thinking, what is he? What's his make? What good can he do? What turns can he make? What am I up against? And I'm getting closer and closer into the range where I am going to blow him out of the sky. And then all of a sudden, he pulls up, he pulls his belly to me, and he's flying off. And I thought, you jerk! What have you done? I mean, he just exposed his belly. That's a sure death warrant. And it turned out to be an American training plane. A dumb, little, basic trainer who was making a pass on me. Well, I knew I had a problem then. I knew I had a serious problem. That I would react like that. That was to be a forerunner of the next 60 years to come. Memories that activate themselves, like this gentleman here, who spoke loudly.